Well, if you've visited the Two Oceans Aquarium recently, chances are you've seen the beautiful big turtle known as Bob. Bob arrived in a very poor state in 2014. He'd ingested several plastic bags and balloons, which had all but destroyed his tummy, and he suffered from an infection that caused him to become partially brain damaged. 7 years later, the scientists managing his rehabilitation at the Two Oceans Aquarium have established that it's time for Bob to start the process of being released back into the ocean. The animal's embarking on an enrichment program under the close watch of Alexandra Panajutu from the Two Oceans Aquarium Foundation. And she joins us on the line now to tell us more about that process. Alex, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. You're affectionately known as a turtleologist, but that's not your exact title, is it?
Hi, Amy. Thank you for having me. I'm also referred to as Bob's babe, but no, my official title is conservation biologist and sea turtle specialist.
And Alex, what exactly does Bob's enrichment program entail?
So environmental enrichment is meant to provide species-appropriate challenges, opportunities, and stimulation. And ideally, an enriched environment should promote a range of normal behaviors that animals find rewarding. So in the beginning, it entailed a lot of research to see what has already been done. And after that, I composed an enrichment program specifically tailored to Bob's requirements. So currently, I work with Bob 3 days a week. Each day, I conduct 3 enrichment activities, and I always try to incorporate sensory enrichment, feeding enrichment, and cognitive enrichment. So sensory enrichment is basically the introduction of natural and familiar scents, sounds, and visual stimuli. So an example of that would be a scratching device or a sea lettuce panel for him. For feeding enrichment, basically we use his food and make a more creative way of feeding him. So like a foraging panel, or I would freeze vegetables in blocks and give that to him so he has to move it around and get his veggies out of the ice. And for cognitive, this is actually my favorite kind of enrichment because it provides the presence of mental challenges. So Bob really has to work for his reward. An example of that is target training or a food maze where we put different obstacles and he has to navigate around to find his food. However, there are other types of enrichment activities and devices as well, and we try to incorporate all of them, physical, social, and occupational, so we can get the best results for Bob. And each time I introduce an enrichment device or activity to Bob, I observe him, how he responds and interacts with each activity and device for about 30 minutes. And once the time is up, I remove the enrichment and observe him for another 30 minutes to see if and how his behaviors have changed after the introduction of the enrichment.
Alex, how long is this enrichment process likely to take? I mean, when do you anticipate Bob will be released into the ocean?
So that is actually quite a difficult question to answer at this point. In my opinion, it will take a while. Currently, I've been working with him for a month. So the hope and aim of the program is that these activities will stimulate and almost inspire Bob to gain back some of the natural behaviors that he is now lacking. So like hiding, aggressive feeding, his flight response, which are essential in order to increase his success, release, and survival rate in the wild. And even though, as I mentioned, the program is still new, I have already observed super exciting behaviors, and I'm really happy with how Bob's progress is going. So we'll have to kind of just see. But yeah, hopefully it won't take too long.
Well, now, I know that you're obviously a huge fan of turtles, and I know Mareka Muson from the aquarium is just turtle obsessed. Can you just remind our listeners why turtles are so important and their value in the animal chain?
Of course. So they're super important it's an indicator of healthy oceans. So, of course, we all love turtles. They're beautiful. They're current to dinosaurs, but they're very important to show that we have healthy oceans. And so by actually protecting and conserving sea turtles, which are like a keynote species, we can kind of balance the rest of the ocean ecosystem.
And I mean, there's a lot of campaigns at the moment about plastic in the ocean, trying to rid the oceans of plastic, and a lot of awareness about it at the moment. Are you seeing less turtles being damaged as a result of this, or are the numbers still too high?
Unfortunately not. Most of the turtles that come in have ingested some form of plastic. Even a lot of our hatchlings will have microplastics in them. And actually, some recent studies have said that up to 52% of sea turtles ingest plastics. So the numbers are still quite high, but I am hopeful. People are becoming more mindful and educated on this subject, so I am hopeful that we will see changes over the years.
Now, you recently released 2 turtles from the aquarium. What happens once these creatures are released? Is it just you just wave a fond goodbye and off they go, or are they then tracked and monitored?
So, yeah, we released 2 of our big turtles, Annie and Louie, and we also released 19 hatchlings and 2 subadults. So for the subadults and the hatchlings, we release them, we send them lots of love and positive energy and wish them the best. For our 2 adults, we're able to track them. So we add a tracking device so we can monitor their movement. And actually, if you visit the Two Oceans Aquarium Education Foundation page, you can see Annie and Louis' movement, as well as Yoshi's movement before her tracker fell off.
And I'm assuming then the same thing will happen with Bob when he eventually gets on his way.
Absolutely, because this is a super cool and important, not only for us as his carers to see how he's doing, but also for the scientific community, because it provides important data and insight into sea turtle migration patterns and behaviors, and it will be also extremely valuable for us to assess, in a way, how successful this current enrichment program was in helping Bob into his new life.
Very cool. Well, we'll definitely check in with you again in the near future, Alex, and find out how that enrichment program is going and how Bob is doing on his journey to get back into the ocean. That is Alexandra Panagiatou from the Two Oceans Aquarium Foundation.